Welcome to Ink and Magic, a podcast where we read and discuss the writing craft, world building, and romance of paranormal and fantasy novels.
If you love books with bite, set in worlds of magic and mayhem, then you're in the right place. My name's Nikisha Shanae. I go by Ines.
And I'm Leslie. I write as Elle Penelope. And welcome to the show.
Happy New Year, Leslie.
Happy New Year, Ines. I don't know when this episode drops, but it probably will have been the new year for a little while, but yeah, it's not the new year yet for us. So.
Almost.
2 days.
Almost. We're almost caught up with you guys in the future.
Yes.
But the last book that we are reading of the year for Nalini Singh, and potentially the last book that we're reading of the year, is Resonant Surge.
Book 22/book 7 of Psy-Changeling Trinity. Yeah, it is the story of Theodora Marshall, who we met a few books back, twin sister of Pax, and another twin. We get double twins, which is always fun. Yakov Steparev.
These names were hard for me. Yakov and Pasha.
Well, Yakov and Pavel and Yasha and Pasha.
And then they had nicknames.
And because all Russians have 45 nicknames, apparently.
I was having so much trouble.
And then you got Pax and Pasha. And
it was too much.
It was a lot. And then, because at one point there's a bunch of people together and I'm like, I had to slow down and be like, who is who as each name is being read? I'm like, who is that? Okay, Pax, Pavel, Pasha. Who are the same people? Yes, it took a little bit of extra brain work.
Yeah, I don't. My brain threw up its hands.
My brain's tired at the end of this year.
Yeah, and I like a blurb, just like I like the previews. Like if I come to a movie and the previews have started, I'm mad. I want to wait until the next showing because I want to see all the previews. They're part of the movie.
Oh, see, I try to get to the theater like 30 minutes after the start time because I know we get 30 minutes of commercials and previews, and I don't always need to see them. Yeah,
it stress me out. It would make me unhappy because I love previews. They're like, it's another form of storytelling, and so I want to see how you try to ease me in and convince me to read or watch this story, and then I want to see how it happened. And then I get mad when there's scenes from the preview that aren't in the movie.
Which happens all the time. But yeah, that does bug me too. It's like, what happened? I don't know, on the cutting room floor? Or when a preview gives you too much, it gives you the entire story, so you don't have to watch the movie. That's a modern trend that I don't like. I want it to go away.
But in Resonant Surge, because I, unlike some people, read the blurb before I read the book, because I don't like to go into stuff blind.
Fair.
And the blurb confused me. Because the blurb, I was getting excited. I thought Nalini Singh wrote some male romance. And I was like, I'm here for it. Give it all to me right now. Because the blurb talks about, first it's talking about Silver Merchant, which kind of confused me. And I was like, are we going back? Wait, no.
Are there two blurbs?
Yeah,
so this one, it starts with Stonewater Bears. Pavel and Yakov Steparev have been a unit since birth. So we're starting with both of them and talks about Pavel and Arwen, who we've seen developing. They didn't get their own book, but it makes you think, oh, is this their book? And then for Pavel, for Arwen, for Yakov, and for another pair of twins whose bond has a far darker history. Then we start meeting Theodora Marshall. So yeah.
And then I got confused because I knew Theodora was Pax's sister.
Mm-hmm.
I was confused.
And they talk about the centers, and Theo has to uncover an awful truth. But then by the last sentence, it's like, okay, Yakov is the great-grandson of a Forseer and has seen Theo die in an unstoppable surge of blood, night after night after night. And that's the end of the blurb.
So that's what I come into this story with. I'm thinking that this is going to be a dual love story and that these two couples are at least going to get equal screen time. And that's not what happened, which... whether my expectations were set correctly or my expectations shouldn't have been set because I should have ignored the blurb, I don't know. But I was expecting something and I got something else.
And we did get a little bit of Pavel and Arwen because they kind of met during Silver's book, so the first book of this new series. Mm-hmm. And over the course of every other book, we get little glimpses of them. I don't know that a whole book or even a half of a book of them would have been interesting because at this point they're together. No one's going to say they're not together. It's just that Arwen hadn't accepted the mating bond. So we get a couple of scenes toward the middle/end of Arwen We get a love scene with them, and we get him finally accepting the mating bond. So that's the part that started out the blurb.
That was beautiful. I thought that was so well done, and I was applauding that part. It was absolutely delightful.
And then the bulk of the story is that Theo has been sent to Moscow, and Yakov is her assistant. They need a bear to go along with them to look at this decommissioned rehabilitation center for the Psy that the marshals owned, and something's hinky with it. There's something weird going on there.
But as soon as Yakov, who she calls Yasha, so I'm just gonna say Yasha, otherwise I'm gonna get confused myself.
Yeah.
So as soon as Yasha sees her, though, he's like, "That's her. That's the girl from my dreams."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, "Okay, love story commence. Let's do this. Let's go."
And it did, basically, right? Like, that's what happened.
Kind of. So he's been dreaming of her since he was 14. I think somewhere it's at 14, then I think somewhere else it's at 16. I got confused with that. Um, because again, yes, his grandfather was an FSI, and Yasha got some of those abilities where he was seeing this, and it seemed like it was just in dreams. He was seeing this woman,
Mm-hmm.
this girl who kept dying, but also, and I got a little confused here. He knew that this girl, or he suspected that this girl was his mate. He knew because he was saying as a
Mm-hmm.
kid, like, this is my mate.
Right.
But then I think later he saw her die.
I think it must have been before 16. I think when he saw her as a child, and she
Mm-hmm.
was just like running around. And then at 16, maybe the dreams changed into this one where she was being murdered. I think that's how it went. And so, yeah, as a young child, he was like, "Oh, I found my mate. I just have to meet her. I'm an FSI, descendant." But then when they turned darker, and then they stopped for a while, and then they came back recently. And I
Yeah.
don't know if we know why they stopped, or why they came back, but
I wonder if this is the reason why they stopped. And again, I need to be like honest. Like, my brain was wandering through this story. And I'm an audio first reader, and I prefer to listen to the audiobook first. And my brain would actively wander a lot when I was reading this. Because I think the name confusion and the expectations weren't what I was expecting.
we're being met.
And also because of the epigraphs. Did I get it right finally?
Yes, epigraphs.
Okay, but I didn't like them. The epigraphs confused me too, because the epigraphs were a whole story in and of themselves. Of course, we had your Wild Woman magazine, but then
Yeah.
there were also these letters between Yaakov, oh my god, see, Yasha and Pasha's
Mhm.
um
Great
grandfather,
grandfather
great grandfather,
and his
and
sister
his sister. And
from
it's
right
basically
before silence.
right before silence fell, and there was a debate over
Mhm.
whether this needs to happen or not. And the sister's husband killed himself, was something that we saw happening with the Psy of the past and some of the Psy of the present. They couldn't handle um, the emotions. And you saw this brother and sister who were very close, and the grandfather, who was the brother, he married into the Bear clan,
Mhm.
and so the sister was struggling with her husband's suicide. She was struggling with with her child. She was just given birth. She was just struggling, and she was like, if the vote comes up for the silence protocol, I'm going to vote for it." So you're watching their relationship kind of devolve, and also they're trying to hang on to each other, and you can see the love, and you see this story. So there was that story happening. There was other interest epigraphs happening as well with other people, and my brain was having a lot of trouble keeping up with all these various threads. And I like a subplot. I love the way subplots get woven together, but it was just too much for me.
Mm. Yeah, I was waiting for that story to come together. I mean, early on, this is their great grandfather, because they mentioned that he was a FSI and he had no contact with his family after silence fell, and that was really painful for him.
Yeah.
So I appreciated seeing, real life experiences of this really difficult decision. And because, throughout this whole series, you're like, well, they chose silence. We kind of know why, because, bad things were happening, but getting to see it from the POV of a person who had so much love in her heart, like his sister, and slowly over time, yeah, due to all these external factors, and believed the hype. She like drank the Kool-Aid of what silence was supposed to do, and ended up not having any contact with her brother, which, I like an epigraph because I've done this in my books where the epigraphs tell their own story. So I do appreciate that. But there were other epigraphs in other chapters from a variety of sources, which he's been doing these for a number of books now. I wasn't personally confused, but I could see how it's a lot on top of a story that's going kind of in a lot of directions, but not really. I mean, the story itself was fairly simple between Yasha and Theo. But yeah, I do see what you're saying.
So back to the main crux of the love story. So Pax and Theo, brother and sister, twins, they were separated at 7, which is the scientific age where they say that twins can be separated physically and not have too much of a dire impact on one another, but they
Mentally,
still
yeah.
they still were connected mentally, and their separation still hurt them mentally as well. And their grandfather owned a school air quotes, where and I got confused too because I thought this was,
It
what's her
wasn't a
name?
school, it was a rehabilitation center.
It was a rehabilitation center. But remember, 2 books ago, our heroine went to one of these centers.
A rehabilitation center?
It was
No.
built as a school.
Are you talking about Payal and
Thank
Kanto?
you, Payal.
That
Yes.
was the school. That was a whole different thing. This was a
Yes, the
rehabilitation center where they
same
were
stuff was
making
happening
zombies.
to them.
It was very different. No, it was like that school with Payal and Kanto was just like a torture school, basically. Like they were not being given drugs to rehabilitate them and wipe their minds. This was, from book 1, from Sasha, we've known about these rehabilitation centers where people are wiped and turned into zombies. And that's what this was. It just happened to be one where they were doing some extra experiments. But it comes out that Marshall Hyde, who was their Theo and Pax's grandfather, also a former counselor, another evil counselor doing evil things. And he owned a lot of part of their money making, part of their business was owning rehabilitation centers.
So he sent Theodora to this place because one of the reasons was because they had a lot of expectations of her. Pax, her brother, was like off the scales. He was
He's a
like
9 gradient and she's only a 2.7.
2.7.
And they would have killed her if it wouldn't have harmed Pax. And Pax was like the golden child, but they were twins. And so harming Theo in many ways would have harmed Pax, which is the only reason why she survived. But it wasn't enough to stop their grandfather from doing these terrible experiments on her at the
And
rehabilitation center.
her father, this was really sad for me because her father, it seemed like he tried.
Yeah, her father wasn't part of the family. It was like a contract. And he went on to have other kids because he realized he had no power in this family. He tried to save her and couldn't because he was just overruled by their power.
Yeah, which was really sad.
And their mom was terrible. Their mom was still trying to kill her up until the present day of the novel.
Lord. So that was that relationship, and we've seen these two before. We've seen them in other books. We've seen Pax and Theo in other books, and we know that there's a bond between them, but a bond but they still try to keep themselves apart from one another, which is really heartbreaking because,
well, Theo's the one who tries to keep apart. Like Pax would be fine, but because it's another Psy who believes she's a monster, which is not my favorite thing after so many books. Like I would prefer if I didn't have another book where a Psy was like, "Oh, I'm a monster because I've done these terrible things." But like her grandfather had manipulated her into doing terrible things as a result of these experiments, and so her trying to protect her brother, she kept herself separate from him to a certain degree.
I think we're gonna get Pax's story, and Pax thinks he's a monster too because he did some awful things because of the scarab syndrome.
Right. Yeah. Is Pax's next? I think.
Is he?
I
I hope so, just
no,
because I want a British accent.
it's
Did you
not.
just read the blurb?
I did look at the blurb. I had actually looked at the blurb for the next book before to see if it was Pax's, and it's not. So my bad. Sorry.
I bet you that's coming. But I think one of the things that Nalini Singh is great at, and we've seen this over and over again, is laying character as a mystery, laying character development down as a mystery, because we're wondering from the beginning, what did Theo do that she thinks is so awful? She wears this bracelet, and that's a big secret too. What does the bracelet do? What is it that, and when in the meet cute, when Theo and Pasha meet, they're going to the center, and she immediately has a reaction to it, and she can't
Yeah.
remember. She knows she's been here,
Right.
but
She
she
has a panic
can't
attack.
remember. So now we're like, what doesn't she remember? So Nalini Singh is great at doing this. She's absolutely wonderful. And then we also know that there's a ticking time bomb because Pasha saw her die. He knows she's gonna die.
Yasha.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
Yasha.
I'm sorry.
I
I'm
know.
gonna screw this up. Just
It's
y'all
okay.
know what I mean.
Yeah, he's been having these prophetic dreams. The same dream. It doesn't change. It hasn't changed. So something's happening, and we're just waiting for it to come. And then there's the mystery of, okay, this decommissioned rehabilitation center. What happened there? Pax finds Theo's name in the records, and she has no memory of being there. So um, they had contacted the Bears to get this alliance happening for them to investigate it, since it's in Bear territory, I guess.
This is I want to get the stuff that I didn't like out of the way. And I felt like this center was like an obstacle to the love story. I really did. They go to the center, she has her breakdown, then they go away and he is trying to comfort her.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go back to the center 2 other times, and I felt like we were talking offline about what I'm now calling a kitchen timer. So think about Hallmark movies. Whenever the couple is getting close, and then of course the kitchen timer goes off, and they spring away from each other. And I felt like the center was just one big kitchen timer to just break up every time that they started to get close to each other. It's time to go back to the center and figure out some more information. And it annoyed me every time that they would pull up together.
I disagree totally. That's how they were getting to know each other. They have to. It's forced proximity. They're on this mission together. They're strangers. She is not silent, but she's very Psy, and he has to kind of. He feels like this is my mate, but he doesn't know if he can trust her because she's a marshal and they're evil Psy. There's so much learning and getting to know each other before they can really fall in love. Like, how else do they fall in love if they're not together doing something?
But the times when they were at the center, they were
Mhm.
doing stuff together before, and then when it's the time to go back to the center, I
They
felt like
were.
that was an interruption.
They meet, they go directly to the center. She has a panic
Mhm,
attack. He comes back, takes her to the apartment where she calms down. The
mhm,
next day, they go to the bakery.
mhm.
Do they go back to the center then, or they do
Nope.
something and then they go to the club?
Mhm.
But it's like, yeah, they're getting together, but
Yep.
they're this mystery, and she can't move forward until she finds out what happened to her. So it's a barrier to that's the romantic conflict. It's like, I'm falling for this guy, but until I get answers, I don't trust myself. I don't know what happened to me. I have this missing gap. So it's an investigation. It's a mystery, which is the external plot. You need an external plot in a romance. Okay, you're making faces. She's making faces at me.
I'm making faces just because I was much more interested in the getting to know one another in the bakery, in going to the dance club, in going to his home, and I felt like every time that they were getting closer,
Hmm.
time to go back.
And figure out this mystery. Those are these mystery boxes you were talking about that Nalini Singh
Mhm.
opens. We need to get more information. They discover
Agreed.
some hidden pills. They discover some paperwork, some
Agreed.
medication, and at the same time, they're getting to know each other. So I don't know. That
Agreed.
wasn't an issue
I
for me.
think we're saying the same thing. We just disagree that I you liked it, I didn't.
Fair, fair. I mean, it's the plot of the book. I don't know what else you want.
I like the plot of them getting closer.
Hmm. If
I
that
was
was just it, I would have been bored,
Yeah, I completely I know, I agree. I just maybe it's just that I didn't like that particular plotting
okay, fair. I
point
was
of it all.
I was grateful. What we didn't mention, there's also a serial killer in Moscow
Yeah,
called the Moscow
of course
Ripper, who
there's a
has been
serial killer.
killing women who match Theo's description, slender, blonde-haired, blue-eyed. And so Yasha is especially protective of her. We get a couple of scenes from this killer's perspective. They're stalking her, so we know they're actually after Theo. And that's all balled up in the mystery as well. Who is this
Mhm.
person? Yeah, there is. Yeah.
There was
So
other stuff going on, yeah, but the center was my least like, do we have to go? Maybe it's because it was toward another torture island. Like, do we have to go back here?
yeah, maybe so.
But
One
I
thing. Oh, go on.
No, I was gonna say that I did enjoy, I felt like I felt like there were so many things that we love in Romancelandia in this book, and one of them was the power of a makeover. So when they go to the club and she gets made over by the human owner of the club,
Yeah.
I was like, "Yes, this check mark. Good job, Nalini Singh."
That was cool. One thing that kind of like I had me a little overwhelmed was we meet all these people. We meet new people. There's a Norwegian bear. There's more bears in Moscow. I mean, the Nina, the club owner, they spent a long time on her. Maybe they're setting up future books. I mean, I'm assuming that, you know, but because actually the next book, one of the hero is someone we met during one of these kind of incidents in 10 books ago or something, where it's like, oh, we're going to meet a whole bunch of new people. And it seems like a spin-off television show is being introduced.
Yeah.
And maybe it is. But it was like, it was a lot. Sometimes that the dinner with the family, we're meeting all kinds of family members, and then the club scene. I was just like, okay, I'm already having trouble with names. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of overwhelming. Again, I felt like she was hitting like I talk about guideposts sometimes, like people who don't like to plot. I'm like, cool, don't plot, but there are guideposts. Like there's things that are gonna hold up. Like if you're drying clothes on a clothesline, you need the clothes pinchers. That you
Mm-hmm.
just need them in order to accomplish your goal of getting your big sheet dry. So look at the guideposts, and she had all the guideposts there. All of them were there, but I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
On the in between where the two clothespins go, I was overwhelmed. Um, there were also the rage attacks.
That Theo has, yeah.
Yeah,
We
and
basically
that's
saw one of them.
and we saw the reason that she was wearing the bracelet was because that was like a form of control.
Yeah, she says she's a 2.7 TK, and then she
Mhm,
has these uncontrollable rage attacks where she just, I wrote it's like Carrie or meets Firestarter or something. She just like loses her mind. She goes into some fugue state. She lifts everything in the room and just swirls it around like a tornado. Yasha is there when this happens. He gets pummeled. He I guess he kind of tackles her to stop her, but that bracelet is supposed to deliver pain so that she breaks out of it, but it just
mhm,
didn't. It wasn't calibrated right or something.
mhm. No,
Um,
I thought it was she got too strong, and she was like, I need to find someone who's stronger."
Oh, because she pulls power from her twin during these. Because
Yeah.
she's only a 2.7, but she pulls it from her 9 gradient twin.
Mhm, and he knows. He knows. He telepathically asked her, "Are you okay? Something happened. Are you
Mhm.
okay?"
Right.
And they have this I'm really interested in their relationship because she's like, "I'm fine. I just need to be alone in my mind," and he just withdraws. He doesn't ask her. Like, if it wasn't a familiar relationship, I would be shipping them all the way because he's like, "I got you. You need anything? No? Okay, you need nothing? That's what you need right now? Okay, I'm gonna give you nothing. Fine, I'm
Right.
gonna back away." I'm just like, I'm so
That's a
hungry.
that's a good
But Yasha does the same thing. He holds on to her while she's having this attack, and he's like, "I'm going to let you go." He lets her go, and she scrambles away from him. And she thinks that, "Okay, it's over now. I tried to act like I was normal. I shouldn't have done that because that's the reason why the attack happened. I let my guard down. He's gonna run away." And he doesn't. And he sits there and he's like, "We need to talk. We need to talk about this." And she's like, "What? Say what?" Which was lovely because that's what you want someone to do. And I guess that's it. I think Yasha and Pax probably have a whole lot in common in addition to them being twins, even though wait, who was the oldest one?
Theo is older
Um,
than Pax.
and I think, Yasha was younger.
I
So
think
then
so.
Pax and Yasha are the 2 younger twins.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think that they had much in common because, I mean, Pax is so cold, but, I mean, just how love when you love someone, whether it's your sister or your partner, it's going
Mhm,
to manifest in certain ways, and,
mhm,
they're gonna be patient, and, of course, being a changeling, Ash is a little less patient, but he knows that Theo is a little skittish, and he's
mhm.
got to measure himself, and he knows this is his mate, so he's gonna do whatever it takes,
Yeah,
which is, always what we like to see in
yeah,
these kind of books.
yeah. And of course, we get some scenes with my favorite Valentin and the gangsters, the little
The
gangster.
tiny gangsters are the babies of the Bear Clan, yeah.
We get some of that, which is always lovely.
Yeah, and so at one point, they find these pills in the abandoned rehabilitation facility, which leads them to Santo and Janine, who were former inmates, I guess, of the facility. And since it was decommissioned, they assume that the Psy killed all of the patients, and they are happy to discover that some of them are alive and they're being cared for nicely. Um, but they're not mentally all there. Like the rehabilitation process, they're kind of childlike, even though they're elderly or they're in their 60s or something like that. Um,
Yeah, so, and we do get, a scene where Yasha is on the trails of the serial killer, and he gets a scent, and he knows that there's 2 people.
Right. There's a killer scent, and then there's a a teleporter who got them out of there. And unfortunately, Janine is the teleporter, but they know that she is not like mentally able to have pulled off these crimes. And so, yeah, they're like, okay,
She's
who
just
is?
doing a favor for the
Mhm.
actual killer, not knowing that someone is killing other
Right.
people.
Yeah. And yeah, so like the theme of family is strong here. We know early on that Theo is not the only low gradient in the Marshall family to have been tossed aside. She had an aunt who was listed as being dead at 16, who was similarly low gradient. Um, and there's a point at which, so, coming to the end, they're going to discover who this killer is. They get set up and stunned, and you don't have the identity of the killer for a while. And because the POVs of the killer kind of made it seem like they had multiple personalities, like they referenced themselves as two
Mm.
people, at one point, right before the reveal, I was like, is it really Janine? Does she have multiple personalities where like one of her personalities, and maybe they could have multiple scents, like in a, multiple personality situation, like clinically, one of them can have cancer and one of them doesn't, it's the same body. So it could have different scents. That was what I was thinking. And then the next second, something was like, oh no, it's the aunt. And then it was revealed to be the aunt who was supposed to be dead, but had really been abused by the grandfather and tortured, and basically what happened to Theo happened to this aunt, and it just made her crazy, kind of made a schism in her psyche that was kind of like two people.
Yeah, I'm sighing because Nalini Singh really wants to write thrillers.
I'm glad she
She
is. She's
wants to
getting
write psychological thrillers. And it's hard for me. Like, I want more Sasha and Luke, man.
more kissing or just more tenderness or what?
Yeah, more tenderness, not so much like I was with who was the villain that we're still after that's still out there? That was in Sasha's book? Ming Laban? Like,
Oh,
he was
yeah.
enough for me. Like, I don't need more. I just want people climbing around in Aries and screaming that she's my mate. Is that too much to ask for?
I was glad we didn't get another, Santana or Enrique or these
Yeah.
really twisted, horrible villains. I was afraid for a while. We've got a serial killer on the loose. They're not great, but I was relieved that it wasn't another one of those because those are hard to take. But yeah, these are, I don't know if they're getting into like paranormal romantic suspense. Is that a thing? It feels like maybe they've always been that. They're a little bit, yeah, she has a harder edge to what she's trying to do
She
here.
does. She does. And again, I really feel like like, I love wounded warriors. That's one of the things that I love to write. I love to write how love can heal a wounded warrior. My heroes just aren't this wounded.
Yeah.
And that's what's getting me. Like, we are going to a darker place with a lot of hurts and harm being done. And when I come to the page, it's to escape. And
Hmm.
when I see how hurt these people are, it's just a lot for me to take.
But it's always been this way. I don't know. Do you feel like it's more intense, or it's just like we're reading the whole series back to back?
It's more intense. I feel like the wounds are more intense. I feel like the villains are darker.
Mm.
Um,
Than earlier in the series.
yes, than earlier in the series. There's such playfulness
Hmm.
that I'm fine. I'm so delighted to watch the playfulness, because the playfulness overrides the darkness that is around the corner threatening this love.
Hmm.
But then there's this, and maybe this is why I didn't like the center, because I knew that we were coming back to darkness every time we came to that center. So
Hmm.
we had the center, and we also had a serial killer, and we also had these like, what happened to Theo. It
Yeah.
The balance was off for me. It weighed too much on the
Okay.
hurt
Yeah.
side. And again, I come to the page for the lightness of
Hmm.
love. And that's what I was missing, more of the lightness, which was why I absolutely loved Arwen and Pasha's. When they came on the stage, I was like, this is what I want. I
Hmm.
want this lightness. I want this beauty. I want this person who was uncertain of can they love, and then coming to accept the bond, realizing that their mental stuff, and then brushing that aside choosing to leap into this person's arms. That was beautiful. I'm still thinking about it more than I'm thinking about Yasha and Theo.
I think I do agree with you that the balance was weighed more heavily on the harm and the hurt. Because I don't know that even that Yasha, there was no internal conflict with him really. It was all on Theo's side. It was all on
It
her.
was can he save her?
Yeah, can he save her? But he didn't have any particular wounds. He had a great childhood. He had a great life, and it's like, yeah, I've been seeing her being murdered for a long time. How can I save my mate? So yeah, it is a lot. And whenever you're dealing with Psy, yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, whenever you're dealing with Psy, they're gonna
It's
have
going to
some
be a
stuff.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is fascinating how she is expanding this world and how she's keeping it like full circle, where she's reminding you this is how they lived in the past. This is how these Psy lived in the past. This is why they chose to do what they did. Yeah, it's crumbling now, but this is why they chose to do what they did. And we still don't have a solution for how this is all going to work itself out.
Yeah, because at one point, Caleb and Payal are meeting on the Signet, looking at that island that Yvonne is holding together by, he's doing a good job, but Signet's still crumbling. All the scarabs are still scarabing. I really liked the epilogue with Pax. So Pax tells his sister at one point he's getting these annoying pings on his mental shield in the Signet, and he thinks it's kids or something. Come to find out, it's the scarabs who lost their queen, and he is the next strongest scarab, and they want him to be their king. And the scarab syndrome in him wants to be the king, and he's been battling. He's trying to keep himself together. He knows his time is short. So that was a really nice little open window into the next book or
Hmm.
our next big conflict. Because we like Pax, we know he loves his sister. We want him to be okay, but we also know that he is ill, and there's no cure for scarab syndrome at the moment.
At
And
the moment.
yeah, although I did expect when she brought up that her and Pax were Harmony twins,
Hmm.
the way that Keenan and
Hmm. I can't remember her name, but yeah.
yeah, I thought that was going to come up again. I thought that Yasha was going to be almost killed and that they were going to have to bring him back to life because they established that Harmony twins
They
can.
saved a bird.
They saved a bird. They brought him back to life. They brought other people back to life. So maybe that she just Nalini Singh's holding that in her back pocket, like, okay, remember this for the future.
Because maybe that's how she's going to save Pax when he gets his
Yeah, but
story.
yeah, I guess maybe, but Theo needs Pax to do it, but Pax just opens the pathway. Theo kind of did it herself with using Pax's power. So maybe Theo has the power all along to save her brother and maybe save others. I don't know. But that was a little thing that, like, a Chekhov's gun that didn't go off.
Oh, yeah. Or maybe that these Harmony twins who don't have to be twins
Right.
because Keenan and his
Nor.
Noor,
Yeah.
thank you. So Keenan and Noor, they're not related, but they can do this too. So that's probably gonna come back around.
Yeah.
You non-plotter, you Nalini Singh.
She's got it in her head. She knows what's going on.
She knows what's going on. And we're just along for the ride. I mean, I'm happy to be on this ride. I'm so thankful to be on this ride.
Hmm.
This just this one overwhelmed me.
Yeah. And it felt like a lot of things, like this is a sort of like a nexus book where she's introducing things, setting things up for the future. Like there is the love story, there's a love story and a half, maybe 1.25 love stories. But it did feel like a lot of groundwork is being laid for
Mhm.
future books. So I don't know how long she wants the series to go or what's in her brain about it, season two. But I know that I think in her newsletter she did a cover reveal for whatever the next book is.
Which
And
is coming out 25 or 26?
that's a good question. Probably 25 if there's a cover reveal already.
Okay.
I do not remember. Let us know in the comments, those of you
We
who
have
do, because we're forgetful and we're overwhelmed.
a lot of information in our heads.
Quite
All these
true.
books that we're reading.
And books that we're writing.
Oh god. Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I mean, it's not, for me, it's not the bottom of the list in terms of the series, but it's kind of middle-ish.
Hmm. We should do
Um,
that one day, rank them all. That'd be a lot.
There'd be a lot. We should have been doing it this whole time. No way I can remember now. But yeah, I think that, I found their love story compelling in general as far as it goes. But yeah, there were times when I was like, "Ooh, okay, what's happening again?" So that is Resident Search. Oh, the title. What
I have no idea.
Yeah, like, usually the past couple ones have been like, "Oh, okay, that's why that's called that." I still don't know why this is
No
called
idea.
Residence Search, and it's an odd title too. Anyway, that is Residence Search.
It is. These covers are getting less and less paranormal too.
I feel like they haven't been paranormal for a while. If all of season 2 is like this, that
Yep. It's a couple, or like the outline of a couple.
and there might be a hidden wolf somewhere, or maybe there's a hidden bear. I don't know, but
Yeah, I don't see a bear.
if you look at Shards of Hope, Heart of Obsidian, when was the last time they were truly paranormal? It's been a minute.
Yep. Agreed.
Maybe it transcends the paranormal.
She's not Nalini Singh. She can do what she wants. She's earned her flowers, and she can do what she wants.
Absolutely.
One day, Leslye, one day, we will just have a cupcake on a paranormal cover, and people will be like, "Yep, I'm buying it."
I love it. That's the goal, right?
That is the goal. All right, Miss Leslye, we need some everyday, after all this heaviness, we need some everyday magic in our lives. What's been going on with you that has been magical?
Well, we are recording this a few days after, like a week after Christmas. The day before New Year's Eve's Eve. Did we do Christmas Eve? Did we record something? No, I don't remember. But it's New Year's Eve, and I have done my end of year cleaning. It's very mundane, but I feel like I've been touched by magic because I scrubbed my floors, I cleaned everything, I dusted, I did a deep clean. I've got 2 cats, so there was like buckets of cat hair. But I try to keep on top of it. But if you don't vacuum for like a day, then the next time the canister is completely full of cat hair. But yeah, I moved all the furniture. I like cleaned underneath things, the things you only do every once in a while. And my apartment feels magical to me because it's clean. Of course, I did this last night. This morning, Sterling, my elderly old man cat, every time I mop, he vomits the next day on the clean floor. I think it's
But on the floor, not on the carpet.
On the floor, yes. Easy to clean up. I've tried different. I was wondering if it's the chemicals, and I've tried like a vinegar solution. I'm not mopping it with anything crazy, but maybe it's just the idea that the floor is clean. He's allergic to. But it's still magical because the rest of the apartment is still sparkling clean. What about you, Ms. Johnson?
I have not done that. I have this cute bed that is a bookshelf, of course.
Oh,
yeah. And I was looking on the top of it, and it was like dust. I was like, I should probably do something to clean that off. It's still there.
One day, maybe 2025.
Sure. I'll do it next year. What I have cleaned off, though, is my Kanban board.
Ooh.
Yes. So I practice this productivity method that I learned from Sarah Cannon over at Heart Breathing. She's been on the show before. And so I have a Kanban board, and Sarah divides it up into 3 goals. I don't do that. I divide it up into my 2 pen names. So Shanae is on one side, and the books and tasks that she's going to do, and Ines is on the other side, and the books and tasks that she's going to do. And then in the center is just books for my things that I'm going to do for my business. So, and I also don't do, because I like to keep all of the sticky notes there. So for every task that I'm going to do, I assign a sticky note to it. And it depends on how granular you want to get. Like some people will do like every chapter gets assigned a sticky note, or every 500 or every 1,000 words gets assigned a sticky note. I don't do that. I divide my books into outlining the book, writing act 1, writing act 2, writing act 3, revising act 1, revising act 2, revising act 3, and then doing the print book, because I always forget to do the print book unless there's a sticky note. And then all of a sudden I just forget to format the print book. So that's how I do mine. And then I also have tasks that I need to do, like update my website, and do my social media and I do this. So update my website for January, update social media for January, redo my ads, because I do a lot of cost per click ads for January, right? So I do that for each book that I'm planning to write for the quarter. And then I'll do January, February, March, all the social media, the updating of the website and that stuff for the quarter for both pen names. And then in the middle, it's just whatever things that I'm doing, whatever projects that I have. Like I have up there right now, I have books that I haven't uploaded to Ingram Sparks that I need to upload so that, bookstores can buy them. And I just haven't done it. It'll take me like an afternoon. I just haven't done it. So I do this every year. And last year in 2023, because it's still technically 2024 right now, because I would have all this stuff, all these sticky notes, and I didn't throw them away because they felt like a goal that I had achieved. And so I think Sarah started to do this. She would collect them in a mason jar.
Oh.
And so I took them all down this morning, all that I did last year, and I put them all in a mason jar. And it is so pretty. And I set the mason jar on a shelf labeled 2024, and it's just so cute and so pretty. And it's just making me really happy to look over there at it. I feel like I did accomplish a lot. I wrote a lot of books. I didn't publish as much. I didn't publish everything that I wrote, and I'm noticing that about myself. I love to write, but publishing is a lot of work.
That is very true.
It is very true. And then if we were showing you the visuals, which of course we're not because I'm not even wearing a bra right now. I am wearing a shirt and a sweater, but not a bra. But on my board, it looks so bare. But on there are all the books that I'm slated to publish this year, and it looks so bare because I've already written like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've already written like 6 books. They're just not published.
Wow. Yeah. So that the jar of accomplishments, that sounds really lovely.
Yes. And it's pretty because all my sticky notes are different colors.
Yeah. I don't have the patience to write like all of those sticky notes. Like I get tired after a few and I'm like, I can't do all that. But I admire it. I am very like if it's too much effort, all of that effort just sounds like a lot to me.
It is. It is a lot of effort, but it's also I see that I accomplished a lot, I need that because sometimes I go and I don't stop, and so that's my proof of doing.
Yeah, and doing like a yearly review. I don't really do that. I've thought about it, but I like to look at the future, and not really dwell on the past. But it's very valuable to do something like a yearly review and kind of go over what you've accomplished. I don't need it. Like I'm still very motivated to tackle what I want, the things I'm excited about doing next year without rehashing everything. But I used to do more reviews, and maybe a time will come when I will feel like I'm going to do it again.
You don't need it, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't add more to your do list is what I say.
That's a good point. I do not need anything more.
You do not need anything more. But listen, guys, we want to thank you so much for joining us today. Please let us know what you think. You can leave a comment on YouTube with your thoughts on the episode. You can share it with a friend who loves romance. And please don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify.
And we have one more book left in our current series. You can always check the book schedule on inkandmagic.net, our website, for when we announce what we're doing after Psy-Changeling.
We've got some plans.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.